Ancient Caves is a story that came about as a result of wanting to make a film that would look incredible in a giant screen.
This adventure into the world's most hidden realms and find out what it takes to solve.
I had just learned to cave dive, and so I went cave diving in the Bahamas in this amazing place called the Crystal Caves. And when I saw it, I said, I found the idea for my IMAX movie. From there, it was like, okay, well, if you're going to make a film about caves, work backwards. What's the story? Who could be in it? Like, what's it about? And I did research into, what science is being done in caves. There's a relatively new science known as cave paleoclimatology, where they look at the formations in caves to determine what the atmosphere was like during the time when those formations were formed. And so this is a really interesting science coming out of caves. They're looking at the ancient climate. I hunted down the man who is sort of considered the father of this technique, the guy who had really made it work, that made the science work. And I asked him if he wanted to make an IMAX movie with me. And he said, yeah, I'd love to do that, but I don't go in caves. I'm like, you don't go in caves? And he says, no, I'm more of a lab guy. I don't really go in caves. And I said, so who's your Indiana Jones? Who's your scientist that kind of does everything? The one that goes in the caves and gets the samples and takes them back to the lab and analyzes them. And he said, oh, you should talk to Gina Mosley, who's one of the scientists that he works with. He's like, she's the whole package. She does everything. That's how I met Gina, and I called her and I said, hey, you want to do a movie together? And I don't think that she was convinced from the beginning that it was ever going to actually happen, because we didn't have any funding, and it was just a thing in my mind. But after a few years, we finally managed to pull the project together, and we went around the world and we filmed a bunch of cool things, and her science. I don't really know why I like caves so much. When I first started diving and I was really more interested in filming fish, marine life, I would be like, caves are like wet rocks. Like, there's nothing in there. It's just, I don't know. I didn't understand why anybody would like it. But when I got cave certified and I started doing some cave diving, there's something about diving in caves that brings out the kid in you. I mean, like when you were a kid and you would go under your bed and you would pretend you were exploring a shipwreck. Maybe I watched too much Jacques Cousteau, but that's what I did when I was a kid. And it brought the kid out in me going cave diving. It's just fun. It's just really fun. And then you get into it, and as you become more experienced as a cave diver and you get to go to places that are a little bit more off the beaten path and more beautiful and more fragile, and you start to realize that, most people will never see this. This would make a great place to make an IMAX movie. And there you go, here we are. The 3D is really great. It's immersive. You feel like you're there. And I actually noticed things, because when I'm filming, I'm looking at a monitor like this big on a camera. And when I saw it the first time in an IMAX theater, I actually saw things that I didn't notice when we filmed it. I'm like, oh, wow, look at that. Oh, that's so cool. So like to see it in 3D really is the ultimate way to see the film. It's amazing. I definitely wanted to show people just how beautiful these places are, and especially the underwater caves. We went into some caves that were incredibly crystalline. They have these formations, draperies, and stalactites and stalagmites that are just made out of the almost clear crystal. It looks like glass almost. And we went into other caves that have absolutely none of those formations, but instead the calcite in them was formed by basically a deposition process underwater. So there's some caves that you have things that were formed in dry air with dripping water, and other caves where basically a crystallization was done underwater, and all these different kinds of rock that you see in these caves. And some of the caves that we go in are dry, and some of the caves that we go in are submerged, and we're scuba diving through them. And it's just an incredible diversity of places that we visited for the film. I actually I'm not a super big fan of spelunking. I mean, it's cold, it's wet, it's muddy. I mean, you get to see really great stuff. But, crawling on my belly through mud is not as much fun as floating through crystal clear water. So I like the weightlessness of exploring submerged caves better. But those places, the places that we filmed, almost nobody will ever go to see them. Very, very few people. So it's an amazing place to be in an IMAX theater, nice and warm and dry. We actually didn't fake anything in the film. And you say, well, people fake things in film. Well, yeah, of course people fake things in film. If they want to make something seem more dramatic, they're gonna play it up. We had a sequence in the film where one of the people on the dive team got stuck. And I'll be perfectly honest, we were planning on figuring out some way to make a scene where someone would get stuck just to have some, tension in the story. But when it actually happened for real, and we were filming when it happened, it was just pure luck.
He corrected me by, trying to push my head down, and, Jonathan just kept filming.
We got it for real. And so in the film where Todd gets stuck, he really was stuck, and you can see he's like really frustrated and he's trying to get through, and for the audience it's like a breath hold moment. It's like, oh, is he gonna make it? Of course, as cave divers, we get stuck all the time. And I like to tell people this, like, he wasn't really in any danger. People always say, well, how come you didn't help him? I'm like, well, because he was stuck, and that was very entertaining, so I wanted to film it. Like, we're not gonna leave him there. So we got a really great sequence, and it's actually completely true. He really got stuck. It's a really, really fascinating film because it's got a really good, true science story, and the visuals are incredible. So it does everything that an IMAX film is supposed to do. It takes the viewer to a place they would probably never go. It tells a really interesting story, and it's super educational. So it's great for schools, and there's a lot of great science in it. So I'm really, really proud of the film, and I'm super, super excited that it's opening here at the Tennessee Aquarium.
Science is about finding answers. And how far you'll go to get those answers. One visionary scientist is on an epic quest to understand Earth's climate. Dr. Gina Mosley is looking for clues in the most remote and unlikely places. Caves. Stalagmites thousands of years old reveal secrets from the past. But some are accessible only to a brave few. At 300 feet below the Earth's surface, there is no light, no air, no room for error. Join this adventure into the world's most hidden realms and find out what it takes to solve Earth's greatest mysteries. Ancient Caves. A film for IMAX and giant screen theaters.